So we've been seeing the beautiful Rasa Leela that Shuka Brahmam completed. So he completes by saying that one who listens to this Rasa Leela in sequence from the beginning to the end, he attains pure devotion and any lust from his heart is removed. So that's the beautiful benediction of listening to Rasa Leela. He says, Vikriditam Vrijavadhubhiridam cha Vishnoho Shraddhanvito Anushruniyad Atha Varnayedyaha Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam Hridrogam Ashu Apahinoti Achirena Dhiraha. When we listen to this entirely, so as we can recall, the whole sequence was so beautiful. First, in the winter months, the gopis went a whole month taking a vow to have Krishna as their consort by dipping in the cold waters. And Krishna played a beautiful leela by taking away their clothes and thereby making them fully surrender. Then he said, I will fulfill your heartfelt desire, longing in the full moon of autumn. And accordingly, on the full moon of autumn, he first played the flute, Venuganam, and drew everyone out like a magnet pulls iron towards it. He pulled everyone towards him. They all came, and then he first tested them by asking them to leave, but they, with their complete, total attachment to Krishna alone, they said they cannot go back anywhere. And then they were embraced by Krishna, but when they felt a slight pride, Krishna disappeared. Then they sang the most beautiful Gopi Gitam. And after that, Krishna reappeared. And then, when their longing was at its peak, Krishna started the Rasa Leela, which was the most grand union of the divine with his own energy. So, this is the whole sequence of Rasa Leela. And then it was completed. Then Shuka Brahma moves on to two short episodes which are both significant in what they represent. First is, he says beautifully that Nanda and the entire Vrija people, Vrijavasis, they go to the banks of Saraswati on the day of Shivaratri to worship Shiva. So it's a very beautiful touch of how we see this wonderful gesture of Krishna being part of going to the banks of Saraswati in a place called Ambikavanam. As the name suggests, Ambikavanam is the forest that is dedicated to the Divine Mother. Amba is Ambika. And so in this Ambikavanam, they all take dip in Saraswati. It says, Tatra Snatva Saraswatyam Devam Pashupatim Vibham. So they all take dip in the Saraswati river, which is now, of course, dried. And they, after taking dip in the Saraswati river, they worship Pashupati. Pashupati is another name for Shiva. That's why we have even now a very famous temple in present-day Nepal called Pashupatinath. So they worship Pashupati and then they stay the night there, and there it is said that a python comes to attack Nanda, but Krishna simply touches the python with his feet. Tam asprishat padabhet Bhagavan Satvatam Patihi. Krishna simply puts his foot on the tail of the python, and the glory of Krishna's feet is that the python immediately withdraws, and not only that, it loses its form, and it is a Vidyadhara, it is said, called Sudarshana, who was cursed to be a python because he made fun of a sage for his crooked looks. So, thereby also instructing how one can never and ought not to ever judge anyone, least of all for their looks. Because this Vidyadhara judged this sage, he was cursed to be a python, but it turned out to be a blessing because he was touched by Krishna and he was relieved of that form. and he goes away. And then after that, some months go by. Krishna and Balaram, once they go to the forest again, and Krishna is playing the flute, but Balaram is also with him this time. He is singing, and the gopis are again drawn. They are all there in the forest together. And when there is this beautiful festive occasion of Krishna and Balaram together with the gopis, a yaksha called Shankachuda gets envious, and he comes to this place and he kidnaps two gopis and goes away. And when he does that, it is said that Krishna and Balaram immediately chase him. And it is said beautifully that Krishna and Balaram are like time and death. Time and death are actually same and yet different. So that's what Krishna and Balaram are. So it says, Savikshya tavan anuprapto kala mrityu iva advijan. So kala is time, mrityu is death, and both are essentially the same. So they're both bringing to end everything that manifests. So Krishna and Balaram are like kala and mrityu. They bring to end this Shankachuda, and what this symbolizes is envy, which is what Shankachuda represents, is destroyed by time. Anyone who is caught in envy is caught in the ego, and it only leads to destruction. And Shankachuda, after he is slayed, Krishna takes the most expensive jewel he wears and offers it to Balaram. So that's what Krishna always does, is when his brother Balaram is next to him, elder brother, being the younger brother of Balaram, being Ramanuja here, Krishna always offers the first respect to Balaram, and Balaram is honored. So this beautiful short episode is also described, and then comes a very beautiful song called Yugala Gitam. We have seen Gopi Gitam, which was so beautiful, and now another Gitam to even top it is Yugala Gitam. Yugala Gitam literally means two. Yugala means two, so pairs of verses. So what it is when Krishna goes about his day, after especially the Rasa Leela has happened and the gopis have had the divine union, every day when Krishna leaves in the morning, it's the greatest agony for them, and yet in that agony is the great joy for them. And so Shukha Brahmam says every day when the gopis see Krishna leave with these boys into the woods, they sing. He says, Gopya Krishne Vanam Yate Tam Anudruta Chetasah Krishna Leela Pragayanto Ninyur Dukkena Vasaran. So these gopis sing of Krishna Leela. That's all they do. They sing Krishna Leela the whole day when Krishna is gone, waiting for him to come back in the evening. And the way they sing is they imagine the whole day what is happening from morning to evening. So they sing in pairs of verses. Every gopi sings a pair of verses. So they first describe how Krishna going in the morning is so enchanting. He plays on the flute and it brings about a beautiful music. His left cheek is turned towards his left shoulder and he looks so ravishing. And even the subtle beings going in the aerial way, it is said Siddhas and so on, they are all hit by shafts of love. We'll read the first verse alone. It says, Vama Bahu Krutavama Kapolo Vallita Bhrura Dhara Arpita Venum Komalanguli Virashrita Margam Gopya Irayati Yatra Mukundaha Vyomayana Vanita Saha Siddhair Vismitastu Upadharya Salajja Kama Margana Samarpita Chitta Kashmalam Yayur Apasmruta Nivyaha. Such beautiful poetry here in these Yugala Gitam verses. The second syllable of every line rhymes beautifully, and just as Gopi Gitam was so poetic, Yugala Gitam is also poetic, and it ought to be sung, not spoken. And this song is very famous. So here the first verse they sing about how Krishna goes in the morning in the most enchanting way. And then they go on like this. Every verse is about the whole day progressing. Then they talk about how when Krishna goes about making this flute song, all the cows are all standing still with their ears perked up, erect ears, and they are all sitting or standing still wherever they are listening to this music. And then it is said that Krishna and Balaram act like wrestlers. They like wrestling. Even later we'll see that only in a wrestling bout Kamsa is killed by Krishna. So wrestling is an ancient sport, and Krishna and Balaram would dress as wrestlers, and they would be beautifully decked in various kinds of decorations, and they would fight each other in sport. And seeing this beautiful pastime, it is said the rivers themselves beautifully they rise up. It's as if to raise their arms. The rivers come up as waves and they raise their hands, it is said. Then the day progresses. So the gopis are singing how the day progresses for Krishna and Balaram. From the morning when he goes singing the flute, then the cows are still. Then they engage in some sports in the late morning time like this. Then after that, the cows are going about grazing the mountains. And it is said, as they are grazing the mountain, it is seen that all the trees are all filled with fruits. They are all bending down to simply, as if, take obeisance of Krishna and Balaram. And then it is said, as they progress further through the day, they have some lunch. And then it is said that when Krishna and Balaram are walking around, the forest flowers they are wearing, the tulsi garland they are wearing, are all emitting such fragrance that the bees are all coming, and also the birds, says cranes, swans, and other birds, they all come. They just stand around Krishna. So it is said that all of nature, every bird in the forest, every animal, even insects, bees, they are all still swarming around Krishna and just watching this beautiful play, listening to this beautiful play of the music. Then he goes on to say, as the day progresses, the hot sun comes. So immediately the autumn, or the, this is not autumn, this is some other season, but whichever it is, this sun is hot in the afternoon. So it is said that the cloud comes immediately late in the afternoon when the sun is at its peak to give a shade to Krishna, and also drops some flowers like rain waters, not raining to inhibit the pastime, but at the same time cooling down with a little bit of sprinkles of water. And after that, he says that the day goes by and the singing is so beautiful that meanwhile all the devatas, starting from Brahma himself, are all coming to listen to this beautiful singing. And then the day is slowly coming to an end. So Krishna calls all the cows back. It is said that there are 108 breeds of cows, numbering in thousands. So he had a different music for every cow breed. He would play that music, and the cows that have gone to pasture, they all come back. And Krishna calls each of them by their names. They all beautifully come back. And meanwhile, it is said the deers and other animals, just as the gopis do, they also do not care for their male companions, but they are simply with Krishna, listening to the beautiful music through the day as he is playing. And then, as the day is coming to an end, Krishna is starting to return back along with all the gopis, along with all the gopas, and the gopis are imagining this as well. And Krishna is walking back with the cows, with the gopas, that is the cowherd boys. And as already noted, by this time, because of the long day, the dust that is coming from the holy land of Vrindavan or of Vraja, it's called as Raja. So this Raja, this dust, is generated by the hoofs of the cows, especially that are walking and running. And the dust comes and settles on the beautiful hair locks of Krishna. And the gopis imagine that as well. And then finally he comes back. When he comes back in the late in the evening, gopis see him come back, and they say that the way he comes back, it looks like the moon is coming back along with stars surrounding him. Late in the day, just as the moon rises in the eastern sky, Krishna comes back like the moon rising. And Krishna is, as we already seen, he appears in the lunar dynasty, in the moon dynasty. And so, quite appropriately, they say Krishna looks like the moon coming back with the stars surrounding him, and thereby the day long and end what seems to be an endless agony of the gopis being separated from him comes to an end. So, in this way, the gopis sing from morning to evening the entire sequence of things that Krishna does. They imagine this, they envision this, and then they finally see him come back in the evening. And thus they spend their days, it is said, remembering Krishna all through the day. So Shukha Brahmam completes by saying, Evam Vrijastriyo Rajan Krishna Leelanu Gayatihi Remire Hasu Tachittan Tan Manaska Mahodayaha. These great beings, they were relishing in simply remembering Krishna Leela. And this is the beautiful postscript to Rasa Leela, that after Rasa Leela has completed and Krishna is still in Vrindavan before he goes back to Mathura, those beautiful, precious time, the gopis every day get to see Krishna in the morning and evening, and they simply remember him through the day when he is gone from their view and sing this Yugala Gitam.